You should ask them there at the front line what they want more, peace or a return of their territories, because all of it could have worked back in the very beginning when we were told that we shall never concede Mariupol. But we see what happened to Mariupol and other cities like that. We have been continuously, proclaiming that no, Russia won't take this, won't take that, and the best thing and the most honest thing would be to ask simple Ukrainians. And I can tell you that people like you, Colonel Davis, who really were fighting back in their days, would understand that people should put a stop to these hostilities. It's very painful to understand that people who were, and the men who were conscripted back in 2022, they in many numbers died, and they couldn't even return home temporarily for a vacation because Ukraine was experiencing the manpower shortage, and so there's no hope. And I am confident that the Ukrainian military, who are indeed right there at the front line, as opposed to those who are enjoying stay on their sofas in Kiev, they would definitely tell you that the biggest thing that Ukraine wants is peace.
And now then, Zelensky in that commentary I just put up there a minute ago is blaming the West. He said if they had only stood up further earlier, then things could have been avoided here. But the fact is that the West gave enormous amounts of support, and it didn't work, especially in 2023 when it had the best chance. It didn't work then. Now then, things are even worse. With this war going on in between Israel and Iran, even more American aid is being diverted from Ukraine into Israel. And that is not lost on the Russian side, as this report here from the BBC shows. Gary, play that headline from the BBC with the headlines, or the Russian headlines.
Exactly, that's the case. And for sure, the kind of shelling and bombardment that the simple Ukrainians are suffering from are becoming harder every day. Situation is not getting better. Maybe your audience doesn't know that right now in Ukraine, a very strong information campaign was launched to discredit President Trump and the West. It is hard really to believe it, but that is true. For many years, for decades, we've been told that the United States is the most powerful country in the world, that it's enough for America to twitch its finger and any country will be turned into ashes, particularly Russia. So when everything broke out, Ukrainians believed that the United States will have its back for eternity because Blinken was telling it, Biden was telling it. So you just defend Europe and we will support you as long as it takes. And that is true. That is true.
Yeah.
And currently, we are witnessing this very targeted personal information campaign when politicians and the government-sponsored media who are being paid from the government budget, and specifically with the US taxpayers' money, there is this libeling against Donald Trump. I won't even quote the kind of words that they're saying. They're calling him evil and much more blasphemous words. The Vice President Vance is also being called all kind of derogatory names. So it's unthinkable. It's hard to explain. So it is very, very strange that you don't hear any judgments officially given to such an information campaign, and so the question is why until now no financial audit took place over the money that the United States supplied Ukraine. Everybody knows that the government is benefiting from it enormously, and well, clearly the government and Zelensky understand that if they lose power, then they won't be able to get any more money, and so that's why they want this war to go on.
And in terms of how all this is affecting the Russians, because the Russians see all that stuff, they see what's happening on the front line, and it's giving them more encouragement, especially as they see more aid being diverted into Israel.
The headline in Moskovsky Komsomolets, Kiev forgotten. Putin telephoned Trump and wished him happy birthday. It seems this call has frightened Ukraine and Europe more than the Iran-Israel conflict. What's more, we were happy to hear the US Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, congratulating Russians on Russia Day. US anti-drone systems are being taken away from Ukraine and moved to the Middle East, and generally weapons supplies to Ukraine are being reduced. Trump has stopped talking about settling the Russia-Ukraine conflict. As cynical as this may sound, on a tactical level, there are pluses for us from the conflict between Iran and Israel. It should be noted that even before this, Trump stopped talking about Russia and Ukraine. He seems to have tired of being a go-between. And now comes this very friendly telephone call from Putin. Happy birthday, Donald. The situation's pretty clear. Kiev has been forgotten.
So that has to be a very painful thing for the people of Ukraine to see, that Trump is now, he said that he was ready to walk away. He wanted a deal, but now he seems to be having better relations with Moscow. Meanwhile, his weapons are going over into Israel, etc. There's fewer and fewer for Ukraine. And then, Gary, if you can put up that one about the other one, I'm sorry. That'll be the second. The U.S. has announced that military aid packages for Ukraine. There hadn't been any new ones in almost 5 months. And the number of weapons, the stockpiles, is dwindling in Ukrainian warehouses, and the aid for next year is going to be cut. And that's going to be starting in September of this year. That's our fiscal year. So everything is showing that the amount of support for Ukraine is going down, and all of the support up to this point hasn't worked. So the question is, how much longer can Ukraine keep fighting if they're losing resources?
Well, Colonel Davis, this is the kind of question that I would definitely be willing to direct to you, because back in 2022, what it was all about when we were told that we will support you as long as it would take. If you could imagine the kind of information campaign that was taking place back then in Ukraine, i.e., when Putin withdrew from Kiev, everybody was crying out loud, "We won! We beat Russia!" Because in the beginning, what we heard that we won't be able to fight for no longer than 3 days if Putin moves his military into the country. So when the Istanbul agreement took place and Putin withdrew his forces from Kiev, Zelensky took the opportunity and started saying, "You see, I have already won, and that means that we can beat Russia." And so everybody in Ukraine was thinking that it's just one little step more and we will be able to be victorious. And everybody was saying, after that, a revolution should have been taking place in Russia, and that would have devastated Russia completely. And that was the kind of scenario when our Western partners proposed to us, specifically Blinken and Biden. So the Ukrainians were, persuaded in it so toughly from every loudspeaker. One would hear that Russia is weak, Russia is going to break up, as long as you just exert a little bit more pressure on it. And so, as you can see, we're still devastating Russia, and nothing happens. Only our lives are disappearing. And so it was good to the people who, I won't be afraid to say, abused Ukraine. See, and sorry, nobody is currently. People are saying politically right now in the West that nobody promised that Ukraine is going to be included into NATO. When Zelensky all these years was saying that tomorrow we are in NATO. Tomorrow we're in NATO. NATO has enough power to annihilate Russia. But you see, 3 years of military action already taking place, and what is going on? People are dying. The population in Ukraine is going down. Ukrainian territory is shrinking. It all is very cynical. So it is extremely difficult for any mentally adequate person to accept, because it is very painful to see that when for 30 years we've been told that we're going to be supported by the most powerful nation in the world. This most powerful nation in the world is turning its back to us right now, and it is talking in a friendly way with the country which attacked us. And so the Ukrainians don't understand where they should run, who they should be afraid of, what they are to do, because whatever we are seeing today is not just missiles and drones which on a daily basis are flying over Ukraine, but this terrible information campaign. And I've just touched upon one aspect of it, because apart from it all, Ukrainians are being sickened upon each other, because the government is continuously thinking about how they should turn Ukrainians against each other, so that the Ukrainians wouldn't raise questions about where all the money is going. Today you cannot speak Russian. Today you cannot go into the Ukrainian Orthodox Church. You are forbidden to criticize Zelensky. Only those at the front line can be considered as true Ukrainians. But you know, the military who speak Russian, they are being persecuted. So Ukraine transformed itself into the territory of hate, not because people are haters, but simply because the government is putting the country through this horrible experiment. So, you know, I'm just thinking, and that the country should roll down to some sort of point when everybody would kind of wake up and demand that a stop should be put in, because it's not just the war or death taking place in Ukraine. It's like psychosis that is being forcefully subjected